Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of Talking About Wrestling right here on the Black Fitness Network. I'm your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins, and this is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. First and foremost, before we get started, I got to issue a couple of apologies, okay? Last week, we were supposed to go up on Saturday as we normally do. Supposed to go up at noon as we normally do. Didn't happen. I was kind of running late, but also for some reason my computer was running super slow and uploading took forever. It literally was Sunday before Sunday it worked fine, but Saturday it just wasn't cooperating with me, so I wasn't able to get it up on Saturday, but we did get it up on Sunday. Not sure how I feel about putting them up on Sunday. However, I am willing to move things around if I need to, so doing it on a Sunday could actually be a good thing. I'm not sure yet, especially if we have these Saturday events, so I'm not sure. Recording on Saturday and then there's Collision and stuff, and even though sometimes I don't watch Collision, that could be a thing. So I'm not sure. So we'll leave that open for now. But as far as last week, I apologize. It was supposed to go up on Saturday and it didn't. As for today, you want some stuff here? Okay. As for today, supposed to go up at noon, running late again today. So we are going to go up a little later. It's actually noon as I'm recording this now, so we're going to have to go up a little later today. Do not fret. It will be okay. But that is what's going on. So a couple of apologies again for these later episodes. And again, we're hoping that it goes up because, again, if it does what it did last week, it might end up being Sunday again. So, again, I want to issue those apologies for the disruption, if you will, in the regularly scheduled program. But all that being said, thank you for tuning in to the Talking About Wrestling podcast right here on the Black Fitness Network. It is 2026, so make sure that you help us hit our goal by liking the podcast, liking this post, liking the podcast, liking it wherever you see it, sharing it to everyone that you can find. And make sure that you subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you subscribe here on Substack, or make sure that you follow the Black Phoenix brand and the Talking About Wrestling podcast on YouTube. We're also trying to get numbers up there. So make sure that you like, you share, you subscribe, you send a rating, you make sure that you comment. Make sure that you engage. That is the key. Make sure that you engage with the Black Phoenix podcast and the Black Phoenix Network, aka Black Phoenix brand. We are trying to hit a goal this year, but we cannot do it without you, and I need your help to get where we're trying to get. All right. So thank you so much for everybody that's tuned in thus far, and thank you for everybody that's going to tune in. If you're watching this in the future after trying to backdate a little bit, welcome. Thank you for catching up. We're trying to get there. But I know why you're here. It's your favorite part of the show, right? It's time for the shirt of the day. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are rocking a little King of Kings action, Triple H. This is actually probably my favorite Triple H shirt. I want to say that I got this at my first Mania, which would have been 25 back in 2009. The timeline feels a little rushed, but it's very possible. Yeah, I think it was 2009 when I got this. Or if not, I definitely wore it to that Mania. Because I think all my pictures from that Mania, I had this shirt on. So maybe I didn't get it at that Mania. Maybe I got it before. But I wore it there. Nonetheless, I've had it for a very long time. Still one of my favorites. And it's OG. Doesn't feel like a lot. The design is just great, and it's one of the first times you see like that they have the design that kind of does more than just something in the front, that it kind of goes out to the sleeves and off to the side and all that kind of thing. So I really liked the design here on this shirt. Like I said, still one of my favorite Triple H shirts. Despite some Triple H is has a weird position in like my um you know, I like a lot of his shirt designs, and as a wrestler, I you know, I get it. A lot of my creator wrestler days, a lot of his moves were in my move set. So I have a interesting like respect for Triple H, but also like there's some criticisms. And there are a lot of criticisms that a lot of people levy on him that I think actually are kind of true. So go figure. But we're not here. Well, you know what? We may actually be here to talk about Triple H before the day is over with. So let's keep that in mind. But um, this week we are going to again. There's a lot of news. It's been a very newsworthy week in wrestling. Again, across all the brands. Um, didn't watch as much. I watched um, Dynamite as always. Of course, didn't watch Raw. Didn't watch NXT. Didn't watch SmackDown. I typically know what happened. I don't know what happened on Raw because I hadn't even seen a lot except for like the Braun Breaker thing, I think. So I hadn't actually even seen a lot about Raw. But there's a lot happening elsewhere. A lot of people on the move. There's a lot of roster reshuffling happening, a lot of signings, a lot of movement. It is one of those times in wrestling where it's like, oh, we're gearing up. This usually only happens like it's funny because it usually happens around WrestleMania season, but it seems like we're kicking off 2026. Everybody's kind of getting their ducks in a row because we're about to load up this year. So it's very interesting, and I think probably I won't say most important, but the most notable or name, depending on who and where you are. Uh, Powerhouse Hobbs is officially a free agent and expected to be heading towards WWE. Um, I of course have mixed feelings about this, but only from the perspective of um, a couple of perspectives. Um, really wanted to see him go further. There are things there was a lot on the table for him in AEW, and I'm not one of the guys. Obviously, I'm a paid TNA Shield. I mean, AEW Shield, right? So I'm not one of the guys who's like, oh, Tony fumbled. Tony fumbled. That's a thing a lot of people are saying now. Oh, Tony fumbled. I don't think Tony fumbled necessarily. A lot of times, may have fumbled here. And what happens is Tony has so many essentially toys at his disposal. Like what happens now with a lot of with AEW and WWE, there's an embarrassment of riches that doesn't make you have to usually uh push certain people at certain times, right? So you can slow roll. You're like, oh, okay, I got plans for you, but I can kick it down the road because I got this stuff here in front of me, and I got all these other toys that I want to do something with first. So I think that's the case with WWE. I think that's the case with AEW. There's a certain desperation, not so much when your roster's thin, but just like sometimes you do have to like elevate some people. AEW is kind of in that has kind of been in that space for a minute of needing to elevate some people uh, to that main event spot um, because they had so many injuries. Will Ospreay is out. Swerve was out. He's back now. MJF was gone, but he's back now. So they kind of got that back. But they still need to like have a next tier of guys to come up. Um, and you kind of see that with like a Bandito kind of tiptoeing into the main event scene. Um, so you got kind of that thing going. But that notwithstanding, um, Hobbs was a person who like he was kind of becoming main event adjacent, right? He was having matches with like Hangman. He's involved with the Ops, and that kind of put him in the main event spot because Samoa Joe was the champion for a minute and was challenging for the championship. He's been involved in the whole, as kind of the backup to Hangman with the ops for the majority of the Death Riders, well, the latter half at least of the Death Rider story, or majority of this year. So, you have those things in play for him, and it's like, okay. And I don't even think it was a matter of he fumbled as much as it's a matter of I think they said Hobbs wanted to test the waters. That they made an offer, they tried to keep him, and Hobbs just wanted to test the waters. I don't know if that's a fumble as much as it's just, he just wanted to see what else was out there, see what he could get, see what he can do. As much as, we go over, what wrestlers do, what they want to do, what their goals are, WWE is still the biggest show in town. So people wanting to go there is not that surprising. So he's a free agent. A lot of people were speculating that he would be on not speculating that he could be on SmackDown, but they were saying that he could appear on SmackDown as early, or he can appear in WWE as early as SmackDown. But SmackDown was in London, and they probably won't go. And it didn't make sense for him to appear on SmackDown, and then the next thing you would see from him would be on Collision losing a match. So they kind of, they wouldn't do that. So I think I kind of believe they actually would hold it for the Rumble. They're saying that he probably won't go to NXT, that he'll be due for main roster. I question that because I don't know where he would fit. And it's going to sound kind of jacked up, but hear me out. They are pushing Oba. They're putting him on Raw, and they're going to push him heavy. You know it off top. They signed Javon to Raw now. So they're going to push him too. I would look at this as probably like Oba's probably going to be trying, closer to the main event probably, or mid card, maybe where Braun was at this point, maybe last year or so. And Javon probably a little lower than him, maybe. So you got your two black guys that you're going to be pushing on Raw. Carmelo's the U.S. champion on SmackDown. Trick is going to do major things, and I'm going to talk about Trick in a minute. Trick is already getting major pops, and it's going to be just look like money. So they're going to push him too towards the top. If you bring in Hobbs, where do you put him? Did you put him on Raw with Oba? Do you put him like does he demystify Oba a little bit? Did you just kind of keep them apart? And then you just had these two, like, is that a thing? I think putting him again, maybe on SmackDown. But then if you put him on SmackDown, does he demystify Trick a little bit? A lot of people probably won't know who Hobbs is, especially if you're one of the people who's anti AEW. So he's not like a huge name in that regard. But I think you could get him there fast. One thing that I thought off top of like, well, why didn't they just put him in NXT and make him like Ricky's Heavy? That may not be the move either. But I could see that being a thing, but they probably won't do that either. I would think they would hold him till the Rumble, but again, I don't know. And it's unfortunate I won't get to watch him wrestle as much. Because again, I don't watch these shows anymore. But get your bag, man. Get your bag. I hate it. I wish he would have stayed in AEW. There were things I wanted to see. I absolutely wanted to see him and Lashley have a real battle, and Lashley to really make him look good. But we're not getting that, unfortunately. So that sucks. Another person who has left AEW. However, in that same news, AEW has been in recruitment mode. They have signed so many people in the last damn near seemingly since the start of 2026. Um, some of them I'm gonna try to go off the top of my head. Some of them I can't. It was just reported recently that, let's see if I can find it. Where we go? Okay, just reported recently. He is officially signed to dual contracts, which is crazy because you would thought they were already there. Two of these people were already there the way they were appearing on AEW, but apparently not. Yeah, he's officially signed to a dual contract. Hechicero, Mascara Dorada, and Persephone. Now, I'm pretty sure I've said before, Hechicero is actually like one of my faves to watch these days. His way of blending like submissions with like this lucha libre style is, and everything's so fluid, and it's like there's a lot of stuff that you haven't seen. It's like, oh, that looks. There's so many moves that he does that I'm like, I've never seen that before, because they're not flippy, and they're not like flippy high flying stuff. It's like submissions and ways to get into submissions and this weird like flowy kind of thing that he does sometimes, and not even in a technical like Brian Danielson, Zack Sabre Jr. kind of way, but like it's really unique. It's a really unique blend um, that you're not really used to seeing. Mascara Dorada has been tearing it up. It was tearing it up all through 2025. So absolutely makes sense that he would get a contract. Persephone as well, who's kind of been teetering around, and she's been featured a lot on ROH. Actually, she's actually the first match that I saw when I went to Dynamite in Nashville back in November, or right before Thanksgiving. When I got there, she was the match that was actually no, she wasn't. There was a tag match that was ending, so she was the first full match that I saw, her and Billy Starks. So, was it her and Billy Starks, or was it her and Diamante? No, I think it was her and Diamante. Yeah, because it was Billy Starks and maybe Yuka or somebody like that. Okay, so anyway, regardless of that, I saw Persephone there, and she had the match with Athena for the ROH title at whatever the last ROH pay per view was. So very big signings there. So you just added somebody to you added a series, and again, Persephone has been working ROH, so that means she's going to start appearing on main roster now. I mean, well, AEW proper, I guess you would call it. Hechicero, obviously Don Callis, he's been there. Mascara Dorada, of course, he's been on there plenty of time. So I imagine they're just going to keep doing that, and just now they have a contract. Maybe they'll do more with them. Maybe they'll put some gold on them or something like that. We'll see. But very interesting to see those three signed. So it's kind of like, oh, okay. Like, I'm not saying they're filling the gap from Hobbs, but if he was, yeesh. And then that wasn't it. Because also on Dynamite, we found out. Now, this was also a thing. We knew they were free agents. And all of this is going to tie in eventually, too. That AEW has signed the newly free agented Rascals. Not one, not two, not three, but all four Rascals. Wild. I don't. You lose Hobbs, you get the Rascals. That's fair. I immediately want to see all the matches. I want to see all the matches. Jet Speed, the Bucks, the Doyle and Davis and Doyle, which is definitely something major that's happened. I'll get to that too. Which is another, speaking of Doyle, which is another major signing that just made Jake Doyle, aka Jake something. That's major. I want to see all the matches. That is huge. Okay. Also, they just signed. Let's see if I can find it. I would have to actually find it to make sure I know their names because I don't want to screw it. Let's see. MJF had a match that led to 2 signings as well. Will it tell me? Will it tell me? Will it tell me? Will it tell me? It probably won't tell me. All right. Doesn't tell me, but never mind. Okay, sweet. Never mind. But they just signed 2 more people whose name that escape me right now. Forgive me, but they just made 2 more signings. So those are 9 signings they made like in the last week at least. And again, that's not counting Jake something. And I'm sure there's a couple more that are slipping by just off the top of my head. Major news. Not to mention the call ups from NXT. Like I said, Hobbs is probably heading towards WWE one or NXT. Who knows which one? Um, and even TNA had a big week. Now, so TNA officially had their debut episode on AMC. They obviously signed their new deal. They had their first episode this past Thursday. And in typical TNA fashion, and I say that because if you've been a fan of TNA, as long as I have been a fan of TNA or following TNA, as long as I've been following TNA, you know, there's one thing TNA is going to do. It's going to TNA. They're going to be TNA through and through every single time. It is never going to fail. So, of course, this show was snake bitten from the jump. First and foremost, a couple of the matches. One of the main matches was a X Division title match between Myron Reed of the Rascals, who just signed with AEW, and all the Rascals were gone by the beginning of the week, so they pretty much were pulling the match for that anyway. And then Leon Tucker. Why don't I remember his name? I really. This shows that I don't watch these shows. It's sad, and it's terrible. Hold it. Slater, Jesus. So X Division title match between Myron Reed and Leon Slater, which was scheduled for the debut show, gets pulled because obviously Rascals and Myron Reed, of course, have left, and Leon Slater had visa issues. Not saying it's not true, just what happened. So that match gets pulled. It also just so happened that since he's in London and WWE's in the UK, that they figured, hey, well, since you're having visa issues, we're going to use you over here on our show. And just to fast forward, he appeared on SmackDown last night, answering Carmelo's open challenge on SmackDown, appearing with the X Division Championship. He also will not be appearing at the Genesis pay-per-view I guess it's this Sunday. They keep saying how this WWE partnership is so much better than the AEW partnership. And maybe it is because it's a lot more exposure, but man. Okay. So that's the thing. Also, there was supposed to be a knockouts championship match between the former Xia Li. Let me make sure because again, her new name is absolutely escaped me. Let's see through this. Lei Ying Lee, okay, who was supposed to defend the title against Danny Luna at Genesis again this Saturday. It was Saturday. That has now been changed to because she also has visa issues. So, who will be taking her place? NXT's Zarya. So, all right, cool, Zarya, cool, cool, cool. But again, just an interesting thing going into this kind of new era of TNA. They opened up the show with this is great. Not gonna hold you. This is great. AJ Styles opens up the show because of course he was all over the show and he was in gear this time. Like when he appeared at was it Bound for Glory, he wasn't in gear. Or was it Bound for Glory or I think it was Bound for Glory. It wasn't Slammiversary. I think it was Bound for Glory. Or maybe it was Slammiversary. It was one of the two. He wasn't in gear. He was in gear this time. So maybe we're getting closer. I need a match. I need at least one TNA match. It makes no sense. It boggles. Okay, cool. He's there. That's great. It boggles my brain that you think that you can have this TNA partnership and not have the biggest name in TNA. The biggest synonymous name with TNA. It's bad enough, like there's some people that you haven't had on there that you could have do something. Kurt Angle may not be wrestling anymore. He doesn't appear on WWE TV that much, but he absolutely could appear on TNA for something, you would think. Again, he doesn't appear on anything, WWE or but I mean, throw him on TNA. Absolutely. You got Abyss over there. Like you got half of TNA's Hall of Famers and legends on the roster. Send some of them people over there, man. And give me an AJ Styles match. Leon Slater said he wanted to face AJ Styles on this show, actually. Now, of course, probably wasn't going to happen anyway. And the visa issues probably made it, worse. But give me that. Give me that. That'd be great. Run me that. I'm cool with it. But he came out, he opened up the show. He had a couple of segments with like Kazarian and Mike Santana. So, okay, whatever. Elsewhere on the card, you had like Elijah, the former Elias, and the Hardys taking on Mustafa Ali and his goons, the Order 4. I shouldn't call them his goons, but this is crew. Of course, that's a big way to start off the show. Again, I didn't watch this. I'm reading reviews. I want to make sure I make that clear. They are heading towards a match with the Righteous, who also just left recently. I guess left ROH and appeared in TNA. So big deal there. And I think that's actually a really sound feud. Again, not a thing they fumbled, but they could have done something with the Righteous in AEW. There's a lot of people who have left or people that are not doing stuff with in AEW that you could easily write something for if you just want to take the time to do it. But because of how kind of things kind of are sometimes, it's so go figure. We also got a new authority figure in TNA alongside Santino Marella, who is Daria Ray, who is actually the former Sonya Deville. So she's back in that role, which she actually was pretty good at when she was on SmackDown and then on Raw as an authority figure. So works. And her first act as a TNA executive was to bring in Elena Black, who was the former Cora Jade in WWE or NXT. So, two new huge signings: Cora Jade, Elena Black, and Sonya Deville, Daria Ray. So okay, coming out strong. Like you took some hits, but you brought some interesting thing to the fray. You got the Elegance brand, and they had a whole thing. I don't know what that thing is. And they took on the Inspiration, which you know from the WWE as the Iconics, for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships with the Iconics. I mean, the Inspiration, I said that kind of on purpose, lost the Knockouts Tag Team titles to the Elegance brand. And before the show was over, it was announced that the Inspiration is leaving TNA. If it's one thing TNA is gonna do, TNA gonna TNA, baby. For everybody who likes to like try to bash AEW for this, that, or the third, there was this talk from people that were like, oh, whoever said this, I think Matt Hardy or somebody, they're like, oh, TNA is gonna become the number 2 brand. They're better than number 2 brand better than AEW. What? Where would you eat? Now, don't get me wrong. Again, fan of TNA. TNA has hung around way longer than anybody gave it credit for. But stop it. Get some help. Get some help. But the Inspiration is leaving. They've gotten interest from some other people. There are 2 other brands that now have women's tag team championships. One a little more newer than the other. The other one's a little more snake bitten than the other. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes going forward. I wouldn't mind seeing them in. I kind of wouldn't mind seeing them in AEW just because they have the new tag division and it needs to be bolstered with some real tag teams, and that's absolutely a real tag team. But cross that bridge when we get to it. But also could see him back in WWE because now Matt Cardona's back in WWE. So of course that could all work out as well. No, wait. Yeah. So anyway, that may have been wrong. So never mind. What else happened on the show? Let's see. Women's knockout. Zaria. Main event: Frank Kazarian versus Santana. I think Mike Santana won the championship back. The match that Leon Slater's not going to be in for Genesis had been replaced. It's now a triple threat. Joe Hendry is now in the match with. It's a triple threat between Joe Hendry, Moose, and I forget who the third person was because it's not Leon Slater. Yeah. So this show has been kind of panned online by a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. Is what it is. But again, it's TNA, man. TNA is gonna do what TNA does. If you're a fan, you're a fan. If you're not, again, I didn't watch the show, so I don't have an opinion necessarily. I'm just giving you what other people have said. It has been widely panned. Um, but that's what TNA will TNA. If they don't do anything else, TNA is gonna TNA. So big thing there. But again, just so much movement between the 3 companies now that you got, Hobbs leaving AEW, but them signing the Rascals and Hechicero and Mascara Dorada and Persephone and the 2 guys from GCW that they just signed. Or, Hobbs now apparently making his way to WWE eventually. Over in TNA, you got, you bringing in Elena Black and Zaria Ray. Daria Ray. You know, but then you're losing the Inspiration. Leon Slater these days seems to be appearing more on WWE TV than he is on TNA TV. So go with that. So it's just so much movement. This is a very interesting time for WWE. They have main event coming up this month, and the is main event tonight. Maybe it's next week because isn't the I don't even know the timeline on some of this stuff now. So main event's coming up this month. The Rumble is coming up soon. The Rumble is in freaking Riyadh. Apparently, they have signed a deal with WWE. Signed a deal with Fandango, not the wrestler, but the company, to bring the Royal Rumble 2026 to cinemas nationwide. Let's see. So the Rumble is on the 31st, which is a Saturday. Okay. Are they doing a 2-night Rumble this year? I don't think so. I think they've talked about it, but I don't think they've got there yet. All right. Okay. All right. So the Rumble's the 31st. So Saturday night's main event is probably next Saturday, I would imagine. Because there are only like 2 Saturdays left in the month. Yeah. So that's coming up soon. And of course it's Mania season, so that's always fun times. There's a lot happening there's a lot of WWE stuff that I'm just like, oh, there's a lot happening here. A lot of talk about what is going to be on Mania. There was talk of like doing Cody versus Roman, because now that Drew's the champion, that throws everything kind of in a different space, right? It's very interesting leading in too, because Cody declared for the Rumble last night. I don't think he's going to win. If you don't put, if Drew's the champion now, and Punk's the champion on Raw, and you don't have either Roman or Cody in one of your main events, that is interesting. So is Cody? I don't think Cody's going to win the Rumble. I don't think they're going to do Cody versus Drew for Mania so that Cody can win the title again. I don't think that's the thing. Roman Drew maybe, Roman Punk maybe. I don't know. I don't know where we're going for Mania anymore. Shake some stuff up though, man. I'm cool with that. Whatever. Now I'm reading a report. It says, according to reports, several people within WWE believe Styles will compete in TNA before he officially retires later this year. Yes. Yes. It was also previously rumored that TNA Wrestling had discussed the potential match between Styles and Frankie Kazarian for the TNA World Championship to headline the AMC Network debut. Okay, that would have been interesting to do, but it was also, I think, a better move to have Mike Santana. If Mike Santana is going to be your face of the company moving forward, you needed to have it. And then they have another match at Genesis though, so that doesn't even make sense. I mean, so you could have done the AJ Styles thing here, and then you solidify Kazarian as the champion, and then Mike Santana as the guy, and then he wins the title under Genesis. I don't know. You could have done that, but whatever. Wouldn't mind seeing it. I just need a match in TNA. That's what I need in my life. Like I said, a lot of movement, a lot of things happening here. Happy for everybody moving, man. Whether you're going WWE to get that check or you're going elsewhere to live your dreams. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm proud of everybody who's out there doing what you got to do, man. My personal feelings for WWE notwithstanding, if that's where you want, especially Hobbs, because the instinct is to like kind of shit on it, but then like kind of look at it and you're like, okay, I get it, right? You do what you got to do, man, to get where you want to get. So, shout out to him. I'm not going to spoil Collision, but if you just heard what I just said, pretty much the spoilers there. I haven't said what the match was that he lost. So if you watch Dynamite, and I'm not reviewing Dynamite because I might even stop here. I might cover this one little story I'm looking at because it's interesting, but I'm not gonna cover Dynamite. I covered TNA. I mentioned SmackDown, so there's that. So I'm not spoiling anything, but shout out. Shouts out. I think let me look a little more. We're covering news stories that I'm on the internet just looking at news stories at this point. Um, see what's happening. So of course there's the 4-way on SmackDown. Well, the 4 matches on SmackDown that will lead to a 4-way. I guess it I guess that's gonna be next week, and then whoever wins that will face Drew at Saturday night's main event, which means they're probably not going to have a world title match at the Rumble, even though they probably should or could. But they hadn't done that a lot here lately anyway, so it makes sense. So you got Randy Orton won one of the matches. Trick Williams beat Matt Cardona in one of the matches. Damian Priest won one of the matches. And Sami Zayn. So you got Sami Zayn, Damian Priest, Trick Williams, Randy Orton, 4-way match. If it was gonna be in Riyadh, I probably would have thought it would have been Sami Zayn, but I don't know. I don't even have a prediction there. There's that. What else we got here? I don't care about that. I don't care about that. All right, so let's talk about we're gonna do this in real time. Okay, we're gonna do this in real time. Report Triple H is booking of blackmails affected WWE tryouts. This is a Meltzer thing. Okay. 5-day tryout in Orlando. The idea was very much to focus on black males and bodybuilders due to the criticism that Paul Levesque doesn't push black males. They've done another about face regarding less college athletes and more indie talent. They're looking for people with the right kind of body and people who can do promos. Yeah. Okay. There's a second part, so I want to get more into it. Latest round in the news. Okay. All right. So they held black tryouts, basically. Is added that the near simultaneous call-ups of Obafemi, Trick Williams, and Javon Evans are obviously an indication that WWE is attempting to counter that criticism. Triple H previously addressed the topic of black representation in WWE. I remember that. Oh, yeah, I just see opportunity. I don't see color. Anywho, so yeah, it's very. Listen, it's all money, right? It's all money and optics. The optics say Shawn has been much better with black talent because NXT is as diverse as anything you can, anything you can shake a stick at. Of probably all of like WWE, NXT, TNA, AEW, NXT might be the most diverse of that, and kind of race forward. In NXT, you had a triple threat main event of a basically a PLE or whatever, with those 3 people that we just named that he called up, Oba, Trick, and Javon. You haven't had anything like that. The closest thing we got to anything close to that. It may be recently we've gotten closer, but like right out of in 2021, we had Big E versus Apollo Crews, and that was a big deal because that was like one of the first it wasn't like the first all black males match at WrestleMania. Maybe first all black males back for like a title of any sort at Mania. We also were dealing with like Lashley as champion. Now he wasn't the first by any stretch of the imagination. But still was kind of a big deal. Sasha and Bianca as the first black women's main event. WWE is like kind of creeping along. Some of the things they've knocked out in NXT in that amount of time have been stunning. So NXT might be, I mean, look, I love AEW. You got Swerve as the kind of in that main event picture. First black world heavyweight champion. There's nobody else that's even in the range. Though a case could be made for eventually Lashley getting there, or well, I won't say Shelton Benjamin, but you know, at least being in the running, at least being in the hunt. I always believe Scorpio Sky would have been the first, but well, I said he'd be the first grand. I said he'd be the first Grand Slam. I didn't say he'd be the first Black World Heavyweight Champion, but I definitely thought he'd be the first Grand Slammer. I thought he would win everything. But then they've introduced so many titles that being a Grand Slam is damn near impossible. So I'll go figure. And they don't have anything for him, which still boggles my mind. I don't even think I want him to go anywhere else. I'm just like, man, just do something with the dude, but whatever. So AEW isn't like this Black Paradise either. Like, is it any better than WWE? Maybe. And the only reason that WWE probably doesn't seem that way right now is because they have NXT as a feeder to pull some people from. Because why in the hell you signing Javon, you brought Javon and Trick and Oba up, but why in the hell aren't you doing anything with Montez or the Street Profits in general? But definitely Montez, who has been ready for a singles push for years at this point. And that's no shade to my to Angelo. But do something with both. Hell. Whatever. So I mean, hell, Carmelo was in purgatory until fans complained enough, and then he shockingly gave him a couple of wins to put the U.S. title on him in at the end of the year. But he sat in purgatory for over a year before that. You teamed him up with The Miz because you didn't have anything else to do for, you know. So now you seem to be doing some stuff with a couple of these people. It's very reactionary. So, you know, and now you're getting Hobbs. And the only reason I think that if Hobbs debuts on the main roster, the only reason I think you may do something with him is because of this criticism. If he goes down to NXT, I think he'll be good regardless. And, you know, he'll be an NXT champion for sure. But, you know, it's an interesting place. Like, people keep trying to, it's a thing in wrestling, man. If you watch wrestling long enough with enough kind of quote unquote wokeness, which they don't like to say that, but whatever. You know this, you know what this business is, and you know why certain things work a certain way. We don't be shocked at it. So it's not shocking that we're not always pushed, you know, whatever. We're probably of wrestling can be strangely diverse, but not towards us. As weird as that kind of sounds. Like, it's a lot better now than it has been, but I mean, it just kind of is what it is, you know. Kofi Mania was massive. Okay. And There were a lot of people who tried to downplay Kofi Mania because of what we were saying, and it was like, oh, what about The Rock? What about Booker T? What about Mark Henry? Still a little different. And I can break it down. I'll take a few minutes. It's controversial, but I'll take a few minutes. Mark Henry won the World Heavyweight Championship, which is not in the lineage of the WWE Championship at all. It was in the lineage of WCW. Same with Booker T winning that title. Booker T couldn't win the title just as Booker T had to be King Booker. That's all. I talked about that back in my faves thing, I'm pretty sure. One of the first few episodes I did. Booker T didn't even win it as Booker T. He had to be King Booker. They had to give him a gimmick that made Vince laugh, I'm sure, to put the title on him. Even though they should have put the title on him. And here's the thing. If you put that same World Heavyweight title on him at the WrestleMania 19 just as Booker T, I still would feel the same, but I feel a little bit better about that run. Okay. And then we get to The Rock, and The Rock is the tricky one because they're like, well, The Rock's black, and you got a little bit of black in you, you're black. And that is absolutely freaking true. And for all intents and purposes, yes, The Rock is black. But if you pay attention to WWE's acknowledgments of him and how he's pushed there, the Samoan side is way more emphasized than the black side. It's like, yeah, your daddy's Rocky Johnson, and that makes you black. But we like your Samoan heritage over here because we like the Samoan heritage. It runs through WWE history, so I mean, that's undeniable. So are we going to focus on your black side, or are we going to focus on your Samoan side because you got the split line, you know? So when we say this, like, well, yeah, The Rock is black, you know, like, but they don't, not even to say they quote unquote push him as black. That's not a thing. But, and for us, it was like close enough, nigga. You know what I'm saying? But when you really get to the brass tacks, it's like, well, yeah, you know, he black, but like, that they treat him as Samoan, they treat him as bloodline. So Kofi Mania was somebody who's straight 100% not tied to this amazing bloodline, and not the group bloodline, but the actual bloodline, and that family, you know, not tied to that, just straight up a brother, black, you know, blackity black, boom. And he opened the door because after he won, then Big E won, then Bobby Lashley. Well, actually, Bobby Lashley won, and then Big E won. So like we were eating, you know. And then all that, of course, had to come crashing down to Brock, who has beaten all the black champions, all the black WWE champions. And then, of course, Roman got it, and then whatever. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where things go, man. I'm interested to see. 2026 seems to be shaping up, and I don't think it's done. I think there's plenty more to come. I think there are a lot of contracts that are going to be upcoming soon, and there's going to be a lot of movement between the brands. And I look forward to what 2026 has to offer. I think things are going to be crazy. Looking forward to it. But that's my time to get out of here. This is gonna be, we did a short one, considering. So that's my time. Hopefully, this gets up on Saturday. If not, hopefully it gets up on Sunday. Because it depends on what the freaking computer decides to do today. Though it seems to be acting okay today, but we'll see. And hopefully my vocals haven't been messed up with the picture. If it has, sorry for that too, because technology, right? Nonetheless, thank you for tuning in again to another episode of the Black Phoenix the Talking About Wrestling podcast on the Black Phoenix Network. I almost screwed that up. Thank you for tuning in once again. Before I leave, make sure you're smashing that like button, that you subscribe immediately. I need all the subscribers I can get. I'm trying to get somewhere, people. Trying to get somewhere. It ain't about money. I just want to get, I've set goals for myself for 2026, and I want to achieve those goals. And I need you all to help me achieve those goals. So make sure that you like, you share, you subscribe, you comment, you leave a rating, you engage, you leave a comment, you engage, you leave a comment, you engage. That is the key Make sure you tell your friends. And hey, if you need, and I need to see people in these comments. Take a minute. Let's take a moment. Leave a little something in the comments. All right. So, all that being said, again, thank you for tuning in. I am your host, the Untouchable J.R. Atkins, and this is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. This is Talking About Wrestling. And until next time, we are out.